Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Health Explained Show. I'm your host, Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, and today we have Dr. Lauryn Lax. I'm very excited about the topic that we're going to be going over today. Thank you so much, Dr. Lauryn, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Pumped to be here.
So, what made you go into the health and wellness field?
Really, I'm like many practitioners, more in the holistic realm, my own journey and struggling for about 25 years with over 13 incurable illnesses. And I say that in quotes because every one of those is now in 100% remission. But I oftentimes say I'm healed to heal others, was actually on the trajectory to becoming the next Katie Kirk on the Today Show until life had different plans and I course corrected as I began to heal.
That is amazing. And so I'm assuming that what we're going to talk about today kind of played a part of your healing. But
100%.
I'm going to ask you straight out, like, we're talking about like the gut brain connection. And some people are just like, I know that term is being thrown around a lot in the health and wellness world, but I know for the layperson, they're like, wait, your brain is up here and your gut is down here. Like, how are they connected?
100%. I know it's not, I actually call the gut the first brain too. But they are directly connected by way of a nerve called the vagus nerve. And so, and they're talking to each other all the time, but we actually have more neurons or brain cells in our gut than we do any other part of the peripheral nervous system. And 95% of all messages and signals throughout the body come from the gut, not the brain. The brain is what's going to perceive things in our external world, sends a signal. So if it's like, it perceives stress or it perceives joy. And a really great example of this would be like butterflies in your stomach. If you've ever experienced that, you may perceive feeling anxious, but where does that show up? We feel that overtly in our gut. And the interesting thing about the gut is it's not just about digestion and bloating and constipation or just eating your food, but it's really connected to every single system in the body. So the immune system, your hormones, your detox pathways, obviously your brain, which we've discussed, your skin. So it's just kind of the mothership for in the relay system. So the brain's what is perceiving in emotion and stress and joy and all the things, but it's really the gut that's going to then receive that signal and decide what to do with that. So if it's feeling more at peace and less stressed, there's a good chance there's going to be more body balance in the body. So a great example of this is we all probably know a 90-year-old Uncle Joe who like smokes cigars and he eats bologna sandwiches and orange soda and watches TV every single day of his life and is lazy boy. And yet he has like no diseases to his name. He's just like a fat and happy guy. And then there's like, I say 30-year-old Lauryn, which is when I was at a climax of my unwellness that I'm diagnosed with these 13 incurable illnesses. I'm eating clean and pristine. I'm working out every day. I'm taking supplements, and yet I'm so sick. And what is the difference? And that's where really the perception and what was going on in my life and what had built to that point in my life really made the difference.
How does the gut play into all these health issues? We hear about like leaky gut, and that's something too that's like, okay, what is that?
Yeah. So, the gut again being the gateway to health. So you have trillions of microbes, bacteria in your gut. So, and bacteria is not a bad word. We actually want bacteria and plenty of it. A lot of times people actually in the, especially westernized world where we've grown up on processed foods or standard American diet, antibiotics, exposure, and just like a lot of stress, like we actually have lessened our microbes. So we would call that insufficiency dysbiosis is the big term for that. But we have about 50% less healthy microbes than say our great grandparents did, just by way of like the westernized world. And so without enough healthy gut bacteria, it's going to like lessen our reserves. Kind of if you like are trying to run on a sprained ankle, you're only going to be able to go at half capacity. So it's like we're trying to perform and function at a half capacity gut. Some people have too much of certain bacteria as well, which can contribute to like something we called SIBO or a lot of bloating, IBS like symptoms for people, or a lot of hyperglycemia. We see this in like diabetes or even in our obesity, overweight, like they call it an epidemic. But why is it that we know more than we ever did, years ago, as far as health is at our fingertips. Gluten-free everything is on the aisles at the stores, and people know to exercise, know to eat vegetables. People are trying actually to be healthy, but why is it not always working? And I liken it to just the gut microbes. And one of my very favorite studies is where they take two mice, germ-free mice, so no bacteria in them, and they put bacteria from an overweight twin and bacteria from a lean twin in these mice. And you can probably guess what happened. So the mice that gets the bacteria from the overweight twin gains weight. The other one loses weight. No change in diet or exercise at all, just to kind of show the power of the microbes. And that's just from a body composition perspective. The studies just go on and on and on of like how our microbes affect like all systems. Yeah.
That is amazing. And then I was thinking, do you have any specific like metaphors that you use to explain this?
Our microbes, like we want them in healthy balance. So just like a nice ecosystem. And if they get out of balance, so say I undersleep, so I'm running on 4 hours of sleep, I'm running on 3 hours of coffee. I'm like sitting at my desk for 12 hours a day. All of that may seem like normal life, but like our brain and our bodies, physiology wise, have not really changed from eons ago. Our environment has. So our physiology, our body sees this as a threat. We're not running from bears. The fire's not coming. The floods aren't coming, but we are operating our body just in a state of fight or flight. And so what that does from like the gut brain level is it sends a signal of inflammation down that vagus nerve to your gut. And it's like you're poking a wasp nest. And so those wasps are pretty happy and not disturbed when you don't poke it. But when you do, they like fly out into a tizzy. And so we disturb like the ecosystem, the balance that we do have when we inundate our bodies with stress that we do, again, live in a modern world. We don't always see things as stressful.
Yeah, that is such a good point, especially like with all the different types of stress that coming in from like whether it's emotional or spending too much time on electronics. And it actually, when you were talking about the ecosystem, it got me thinking, only because I was in my garden yesterday and I'm sitting here going like, why is my garden not producing vegetables and like being healthy? And I looked around, and it's because there's a lot of plants in my garden, but they're all weeds. Yeah. So, I'm like, just like if you always have bacteria in your gut, but if you don't have the right bacteria, you're not going to produce the results you want.
That's I a lot of times talk about this in just like a simple food context as well. So feeding our body and our gut, like just a balanced diet, an ancestral diet, foods that your great grandparents again would have eaten, is kind of foreign nowadays more so. It's interesting how it's like 70% of foods in a grocery store are ultra processed foods that are man created, that we now look at like a Dorito and call it a food, or just even a lot of these packaged diet foods. Now, it doesn't have to be super like unhealthy food, but it's kind of like, a goat that eats paper. We know that's not food, but the goat is eating paper. So it's like when we eat certain foods that are not actually real foods, that is one example of an insult or a stressor. And if you can think about like a plant, just what does it need to thrive? It needs sunshine, water, and rich soil. So if that plant is in a drought, what happens? It doesn't survive. If that plant is in a dark room and it doesn't get sun, it doesn't survive either. And if you plant that plant in a like garbage dump, it's not going to survive very long. And so as humans, we need proteins, fats, and like I say, fiber and carb form, as well as water. We know that. And a lot of times folks are just not like, the reserves are so low. So that is just one insult, one of many insults of stressors to the body that's not doing our gut good any favors.
Just in wrapping up here, what are the things that we can do to kind of keep our body healthy?
Yeah, I have 5 core gut love habits that are a really great place to start. And I liken it to a table. So if a table has 5 legs, we don't always see 5-legged tables, but one of those legs is down, there's a good chance that table will still stand. But if 2, 3, like all the legs start going down, that table's not going to stand. And so the human body, these 5 essentials are really great foundationally to start. So number 1 is hydration, and hydration ideally with quality water. So a lot of our tap water sources have carcinogens in them, so like cancer causing agents in them. And number two is boosting digestion. So chewing our food really well. I love to go to like, just even Whole Foods Market downtown if I'm going to grab some lunch or something, and just people chew, swallow, chew, swallow. A lot of people are not liquefying their food. And so that chunk of chicken, when you swallow it, is still a chunk of chicken. Your gut's going to have a harder time breaking that down. And also pausing to breathe around meals. Like those are two simple ways to boost digestion outside of just like supplemental support. I'll sometimes help clients. Number three is nourishing your gut bugs. And we talked about like protein, fat, and fiber. In the like thinking what would a great grandma would have eaten, or even the days of ancestral years. So shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, great place to start. Avoiding seed oils, avoiding sugar, avoiding a lot of our gluten and dairy. Like just these are processed foods. Number four is move and rest, kind of like work and play. And so just moving your body in some form or fashion, whether you have 7 minutes or 60 minutes, just really getting into practice, because your body doesn't know exercise, it knows movement. And then with rest, beyond just like the sleeping, 7 to 9 hours, it's really optimizing your sleep. So like from a circadian perspective, we were talking about like light exposure. I keep filters on my screens all day. So when we look at blue light, which a lot of us are looking at screens, the brain sees that as day number 2 all the time. And so especially in the later part of the day, we're just kind of running from that bear still if we're staring at blue light. And it'll greatly help with sleep, just kind of modifying your blue light exposure as well as getting more natural light. And then lastly, number 5 is to energize. And I say bookending the day with a morning and evening routine. Really, you happen to the day versus letting the day happen to you, versus jumping right into that bear chase of the day.
I love that. And I'm thinking too, like I've had to start getting off my computer like around dinner time, because I find that if I keep going, because you always want to get one more thing done. If I keep going, next thing you know, I can't sleep and I'm up all night.
Yeah.
And then the worst thing is I go, well, I'm up, so I might as well keep working.
Totally. You just keep going.
Oh my goodness. And also in wrapping up, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want us to know?
Yeah, I think just kind of circling back how much the gut and the brain are connected. So beyond the just like lifestyle pieces that I just mentioned from habits perspective, we are the stories we tell ourselves, and like what's going on up here is greatly impacting down there. Like I would say more so than anything. And even though 95% of signals throughout the body are coming from the gut, really that gut is intercepting it from the brain. And so 80% of people's thoughts are repeat negative thoughts they've had before. And so if we're circling in these loops of like negativity, like that is just this underlying fuel to the fire. And so I think doing the work around the mind is powerful, even just like reframing and starting the day off and ending the day off with, I call it a power statement or mantra that really speaks into the day. So like, today is going to be a great day. Or, if something doesn't go your way, like someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of giving them the finger, give them a peace sign. Like really just like reframing how we go about our day in more of a positive light versus a negative light. And again, the stories we tell ourselves is tremendously impactful. And there's a lot of layers there, but I would say that is something that I don't think is talked about enough in both conventional and sometimes green allopathy, like functional health.
That is amazing. Where can people find out more information about you?
drlauryn.com is the best place, or Dr. Lauryn on all my handles. And Lauryn is with a Y. So Lauryn, DRLauryn.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lauryn, for being with us today. I really appreciate it. And you explained this I have very great visuals with this one. So
yay. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to just direct everybody to go check out Dr. Lauryn's website. When you're done with that, don't forget to check out the wytv7.org website. Look at all the other amazing programming that's going on right now. While you're there, please hit the donate button, because every dollar, even if it's just $1, makes a big difference. We have all these scholarship and community programs that are going on. And don't forget to follow me on social media. And one last thing, come back next week for another episode of the Health Explained Show. Once again, thank you, Dr. Lauryn.
Thank you.